Hello everyone, I am Plankera. Today we're going to continue drawing Ines from Arknights. So I do want to do more work on the sword here, and I tend to want to do that early, but before I do, I just want to correct a couple of things that aren't quite right before I forget, mostly in the horns here. Some of this is going to be fixed when I zoom in and start actually properly cleaning it, but I wanted to get this little angle a little bit more correct. More importantly, I wanted to get this angle a little bit more correct. Over here, it wasn't looking quite right. I'm not going to worry about getting it all the way there since I haven't properly smoothed out all the edges yet, but I need it to be in roughly the right place because seeing the perspective off just a little bit there was very distracting when I was looking at it this morning. So just a small correction before I move on to a couple of other things. It's probably close enough for the time being. Let me go ahead and add these ridges back in. Okay. And then I also noticed that under this eye, she had a few little beauty marks. Also, I did not properly fill those in. I should do that too. Okay. So I wanted to draw those in before I forgot. Okay. Now I can hide a bunch of layers and go back to working on the sword. And unfortunately I do have to hide all those layers because this is complicated enough that I would struggle if I did not. So after taking another quick look at the sword, I am simplifying it quite a bit. But there is a straight part before it starts to curl, and I want to draw that. I'm going to push this down, make it a little bit shorter. And then I want to add that straight part. Let's see, it's going to be something like this. There we go. And then I'll start getting all those curly parts in there. Let me turn the shadow back on just to make sure I'm satisfied with the length. Yeah, I think that's good. Just wanted to make sure that I still had it going the right places. Okay. So, new day, new touch-ups on the sword. I think that's just how it's gonna be for a little while. Just touch the sword while I have a fresh brain, and as I start getting a little bit tired, I can move on to things that are a little bit simpler for me. A little bit simpler, maybe a little bit more fun. Like the areas around her face. And today I'd like to finish the hair and horns. The rest of her face, and just kind of get that all done. That sounds like it'll be nice. We'll see if I can do it. I believe in myself. I guess in the end it depends on how long I end up poking at the sword and whether or not I can finish that instead. But I think it's getting there. At this point, I think it's less about adjusting a lot of the bigger areas and more just refining And just getting some of those important angles correct. There's some of them that I don't think are quite right. Alright, I'll wrangle them into submission eventually. I always do. I'll just go in. Some of these little white areas are just a little bit too flat and don't really convey the sense of wrapping around and spiraling that I was hoping to put out there. So I'm just gonna go in and touch them up. See if I can't get them into their proper places. There's a place for every little pixel, it's just a matter of finding it. I think that's what's going to convey most of the spiral nature of the sword here. Just getting those angles just right. While drawing this, I've been saying that the areas around the face are the most important. And that is definitely true, but I think that this weapon, it's the furthest thing forward, and it's high contrast with even a few red parts. And it's also going to be pointing at an eye on the shadow. So I think getting it right is also quite important. I think people are going to be looking at it, and if it looks wrong, I think people will notice. So I'm spending a bit of extra time just to really get in there and make sure that all those little details are correct. I feel like a lot of art is just figuring out which areas are the most important, and then really going hard on those areas and making them perfect. Or at least just perfect as you can manage. And I think a lot of getting better at composition and making your art more interesting really is just figuring out how to emphasize those important parts and minimize the areas that are less important, and not dump a bunch of time and attention into them. It's kind of interesting, really. Of just thinking about how people will actually look at your picture, as opposed to just drawing whatever comes to mind. Sometimes drawing whatever comes to mind can be fun, but I think if you want to draw a really good picture, you do have to put in some thought to how people are going to actually look at it, what they will perceive, and what you want them to perceive, and how to align all that. There we go. Right now I'm not convinced at how that this little part is wrapping around properly, so I'm trying to get it to curl. There we go. Should be able to get it a little bit smoother once it's time to zoom in and refine. Okay. I'm gonna bring out the liquefy a little bit. Push some things around because right now the sword's not looking straight again. That happens a lot. It's okay. It's pretty easy to fix. Just push certain aspects of it around a little bit until it straightens out. There we go. Just getting in there. Make it all a little bit straighter. I think that's looking a little bit better. Okay, I think that's... How are we doing? It's starting to look like it's curling around a little bit. Not wholly satisfied yet. Looking at her official art again and just trying to see where the difference lies. Do I need to cut in? I don't want to be zoomed in. I need the big picture right now, so. Do I need to cut in under here a little bit more? Let's take a look. I'm just doing a quick little experiment, not trying to be very precise or pretty. Is it helping? Let me go through my history and see. Maybe a little? I do think it's a little bit better, so I'll go do the rest. There we go. And then I'll try to send out this white part, the part that's kind of bladed. Try to get that to wrap. That's all I'm really trying to do, because after all, what defines a spiral is that it goes around something. I'm trying to create the illusion that these white parts are spinning around the black part, and that the whole thing is just twisted a little bit. Easier said than done. Let's take another look at how this artist did it. Okay. Just let this white part stick out a little bit more. Go through each segment and try this little experiment. Trying to do this in very few strokes, this way I can compare before and after in my history. The history only saves so much after all. It'd be nice to be able to run a quick comparison. Let's take a look. Okay, yeah, it's looking a little bit more curvy, I think. Oops. Go up here a bit. There. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna turn everything back on and probably revisit it again tomorrow. Like I said, I'm just gonna poke at it for a few days. Just try to get that the way I want. I don't actually think I need that layer anymore, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove it. Okay. So the things left around the face are just hair highlights and the horns, I think. Looks like I have a little chip on the head itself, so I'm gonna go correct that. Real quick, I just see a little thing that doesn't look quite right through there. Straighten out this little line, smooth it out. But otherwise, yeah, I think most of her face is basically done, so... Just taking a look at the mouth, but no, I think that's fine. I'm gonna poke at the eyelashes just a little bit more. I think I want to make them a little bit longer. I was definitely zoomed in very far when I drew them. They're not quite as noticeable as I want when I'm zoomed out. I'm just going to extend them a little bit. Extra fluffy. I do really, really enjoy extra fluffy eyelashes. I just think they're so much fun. Okay. Do the same on this side. And this way when I zoom out and show the entire... So the entire picture will show up at once on my monitor. It should make them a little bit easier to see. As you could barely see them at all. I was doing that before. And that's just a little unfortunate. His fluffy eyelashes are great. Oh yeah, much more noticeable now. Okay, off to the horns. I'm not gonna worry about painting over the ridges or anything. That's just gonna happen. That's why I didn't spend too much time getting them to look nice yet. I just kind of focused on getting them in the right place as a proof of concept. So her horns are a very rigid surface. I want to be very particular about the straightness and smoothness of them here. They're a very hard surface. They're not going to buckle if you just touch them. Whereas with stuff like hair and even the skin, you know, you poke someone's hair, poke someone's cheek, you're going to dent it a little bit. I don't worry about being quite as straight or as precise with textures like those. And given how little information I provide to the viewer with this minimalist style, every little piece matters. I'm being very particular about the shape here. Just want to make sure that it looks very rigid. There we go. Almost there. And I want the point to be nice and pointy. Although, are they kind of rounded off? No, they're pretty pointy in her official art. Probably even stand to curl them upward a little bit more. Maybe something like this. Make them a little bit extra pointy. There we go. Just trying to get the shape right. Want to give them a little bit of the sarcasy devil shape. Ines may not be a sarcas, but she is certainly trying to look like one. There we go. That's probably good. Looks like the side is mostly good already, but I just want to get that last little bit in there. Just get that last little bit. And then also add that little bit of curl. I kind of liked that on the other side. That was pretty cool. There we go. Something like that. It's subtle, but I liked it a lot. So I want to do it again. There we go. Right now I'm not too worried about where all the colors are going to shake out. I'm just trying to get the edges nice so that this way I can lock the transparent pixels so I can only draw in areas that have color on them, and then I can just go in and get everything just right. We're just going to erase the ridges entirely and redraw them. They were only there to help me with perspective, and they helped a lot. Try to give this just a little bit of a presence there. So this way it doesn't look too paper thin. And up we go. All the way down. And I want to make sure that this angle here is representative of exactly how this thing turns. Head on up. There we go. I want to try to make this a little more angular, a little more rigid looking. It'll make the horns look a little bit harder. I definitely don't want it to look round. Like you see, that looks a little bit round. So I want to go back in and really make that angle hard. As close to a very solid transition as I can make. It's a bit of an obtuse angle, so it's not going to get super hard. I think that's pretty good. So now just the little ridges. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit for that. Just so I can get a good idea of where they're being placed. I want it to be a little bit thinner than that, I think. Take a look at her art again, just to see how they're spaced. I think it's going to be something like this. You can see I want them to be mostly parallel. And then up here. A little bit further apart. There we go. And I'll just run it across like this. No, I think those were both okay, actually. There. I just do the same thing over here. Actually, I kind of want to keep that center line, because I think it's in mostly the right place. I kind of want to use it as a guide. It's like in some ways it'd be easier if I erased it. But in some ways it'll be harder, so let's just do it like this. I can do whatever works best for me. In this very moment. Don't have to think about it too hard. Looks like there's a couple of areas I didn't quite fill in properly, so fix that. Being able to just lock the pixels and not have to worry about coloring outside the lines is very nice. Here I'm coming in, and once again I want to make this angle very hard. Make those horns look as rigid as possible. Is that spot not quite filled in correctly? There we go. There it goes. I just missed a couple of little holes when I was coloring this in. How strange. They're just tiny, tiny little holes. I didn't even notice them until I really got in there. Try to fill all the rest of this in. Alright. Let's make this spot nice and pointy. Like it'll be covered somewhat when I put the other ridges back in. But I do want to make sure that this is how I want it, because it'll be a lot harder to adjust once I draw the ridges in. And we'll just go. This is where my difficulty drawing straight lines is coming in. Got a couple of little lumps that I want to work out. So I have the wrong color. There we go. I'll just go in. Try to get everything the same width. I don't mind a little bit of variance, but this is just meant to be a line, so I don't want it to be... I don't want there to be too much difference. How does that look? Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So now we do the ridges. So this one's a little bit different from the other one because I have to do two. They kind of do something like this. And then I try to make them kind of as parallel as possible. Sometimes it takes me a few tries, but that's alright. Okay. Now for the lower ones. There we go. Okay. Yeah, something like that. Alright, let's do those hair highlights. I already have the front hair defined, so I can just go in and put in the highlights. I think their locations are already pretty alright, so I'm just gonna draw my shapes. Except up back there. Back there's not so good yet. But over here's good. It's just a matter of going in and getting all the shapes drawn just the way I want them. Right now they're all kind of samey. I'm a little bit worried. Need to vary them up a little bit. I'm not actually sure if the ones over there look good at all. Yeah, I don't really like them. Let's try again. Let's just try again. It's okay. This time I'll try to make them a little bit less uniform. And over here, maybe they're a little bit smaller. Maybe something like that. I can thicken them up as I go through. Okay, and now I need to add some of these just so I can kind of see where her roots are a little bit better. I like to add a couple of highlights around the roots. Just some little tiny ones. Windows harassing me for updates again. Ugh. It's like I'll do it when I do them, Windows. You don't get to decide. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay. Now they're drawn, so I just go in and clean them up a little. A little baby one right there. Add a little bit more diversity. I'll go in. There we go. Okay. I think that angle's looking good. Let's just clean up right in there. And that looks fine. These ones are pretty simple, so I don't think they'll take very much cleaning. So I'll go ahead and do them next. Just take out some of those tiny little edges that don't look very good. Or kinda loses its absolute black or white. The kind of thing that I like for this style. There we go. Honestly, this style has always been really interesting for me to draw, just taking away as many details as I can while still keeping it interesting and looking like the character I'm trying to draw is... It can get pretty wild. Lots of very interesting decisions to be made. It taught me a lot about the importance of shapes and all of that. In fact, I'd say that this is probably what made me really comfortable with drawing mostly in silhouettes. If it sounds fun, I think it's worth trying sometime. I imagine your take on minimalism would be very different from mine. That's alright, because when it comes down to it, what a lot of a proper minimalist style is just putting a very simple interpretation of what you see, bringing it down to its raw elements. The smallest pieces that it just can't do without. Maybe it just appeals to me because lots of my style and my designs are very simple in general. I don't like making things too complicated. It's just the way I am. Remove all the complexity from your life, focus on the things that really matter. That's how I roll. Like a lot of people are prone to just worrying about things that aren't really necessary. There we go. I think I actually want this one to be a little shorter. Maybe a little bit thicker. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And have this side be a little bit thinner. Just have some variance up in there. Keep things a little bit more interesting. Do something like this. I think I want it to be a little bit straighter than that, but I can do that. I just gotta draw it. It's fine. Just gotta straighten it out. Get the shape that I want. There. And I'll go ahead and add another little baby. Right there. Alright. Now that looks more like hair, and I think that's pretty much a completed head. So now what do I want to work on next? Normally I'd say it's probably this arm and stuff, but I don't think I want to do that right now, so let's take a look at the shadow. I'm actually going to duplicate this just to make sure I don't mess up making all this solid color instead of a gradient. I did decide in the end that I wanted to have it be solid. Still think it was worth doing all that exploration with the smudge tool though, just because I think I'm gonna get a lot more interesting shapes and stuff here. I'm gonna start with the ones that I already have, and then I'm gonna go in and change them up as necessary. This is gonna be a bit of a difficult clean just because I'm gonna have some areas that have a bit of opacity to them, and I don't want any of that. Gotta be either black or nothing. And we'll go up here. I'm just following the gist of what I see. Not worrying about it too much. Gonna take a bit to clean all that up, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes me multiple days to just get through it all, just because there's so much of it. I want to keep some of these areas, some of these holes that I ended up making. I think they're kind of cool. I don't want to get rid of them all. Like around here. All of these little guys. We'll do some interesting things with them later. This little wisp is fine. We'll keep it. If something looks cool, we're gonna keep it. Well, I just go over all this. Try to find the shapes I like. Try to keep it interesting. Some part that's the brush, for other parts that's the eraser. Still not super interested in being very precise yet. I'll properly clean this later. Definitely want to make sure that I have interesting shapes to act as the backdrop here. Before I really go in and clean it all up. Like it'd be unfortunate just to clean up a bunch of stuff only to find that I can do this better. I need to go back and fix some things. That'd be a lot of wasted time. Time I could have spent drawing a different illustration. And lots of just little hazy parts I'm gonna have to go through and clear. Gonna be a bit rough. Going through with the smudge tool just ended up being necessary to help me make things interesting, because when I was just doing it on my own, it just wasn't working out, man. This is gonna be one of those suffer for your art moments. Going through and cleaning up all this, that is. Oh boy. How are we looking so far? That versus... Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a lot of work to make some of that a little bit more interesting, but I think it's a good start. And I do think it looks better as a solid mass like this instead of the soft wisps I had before. It just matches everything else better. It's fine. Just go through and It'll be all cleaned up eventually. Right now I think it still looks a little boring, but not as boring as it was before I brought in the smudge tool to help me out. I'm not going to completely cover all of this. I'm going to let the hair kind of shine through and maybe even have some spots of the shadow kind of go up and reach up into the hair like this. I'm going to curl around in the same direction. Take some liberties with what I drew here. Doesn't have to match one-to-one. Maybe not like that, though. Like, I definitely want the hair to get lost, but I still want to be clear which areas are hair and which areas are shadow. There we go. I can already see that I think I'm gonna have to go back in and make some bigger ones. I think a lot of them are a little bit small. Go in and color over here. I kind of like her hair only being recognizable by the highlights on it. I think that's pretty cool looking. I like this little shape in there, so we're gonna keep that. Okay, so something like this. Let's compare. Yeah, definitely. No doubt in my mind. That said, I don't think I'm quite ready to clean all that up today. Today I'm feeling a little bit tired. I had a bit of trouble sleeping last night. Okay, so I'm gonna continue pretending like this arm doesn't exist, but this arm can exist. We can work on that one. That one doesn't look so bad. Where's that piece of pixel dirt? Or is it a hole? I guess it could be a hole. It is a hole. Okay, cool. I thought there might have been a black spot on top of the arm there, but not the case. It is just a spot I did not fill in. Much easier to deal with. I don't really feel like trying to find what that piece of pixel dirt is, so I'ma just pretend the arm doesn't go through there. Keep my life simple. Okay. Let's do a little bit on the collar. Now that that arm is fine. So I remember on this, I decided to add a line in here to make the front and the back clear. So we'll clean that up, make it nice and straight and smooth. Clear out all the blobs. I don't really think I need to add a shadow for the neck or anything, or the head and chin. I It's fine the way it is. Like I said, I don't like to add too many elements to these. The idea is to keep them fairly simple. Arknights just has some kind of overly complicated character design sometimes. Well, anime does in general, I'd say. Especially ones where they don't have to animate it. Just go ahead and add 50 random belts, and you got yourself an anime design. Go give your characters 3 different coats, and you got yourself an Arknights design. Especially if you don't give them pants. No one is allowed to wear pants in Arknights. And back to smoothing out this line. Zoom in a little. Lines aren't cooperating with me. Sometimes zooming in. Just really getting in there. Makes it a little bit easier for me. It's always funny just which angles that I have trouble with. This doesn't look any harder than some of the other stuff I've drawn, but for whatever reason, I'm just having a bit more trouble. Feels a bit random sometimes. Maybe someday I'll understand, but that day is not today. Just like a little tiny bit of lump left. There we go. Okay. Gonna go ahead and hide that other hand for now. Just so I can see what I'm doing a little with these spikes a little bit better. I don't want them to run into the zipper on her top or anything. I can afford to keep them a little bit smaller than they are in her official art. I do not think they're that important. I could probably even omit them entirely if I wanted to. They are amazingly edgy, and I think they're funny, so I decided to go ahead and draw them. Go through. And And I'm just trying to get the right thickness on this spike here to make it look like it is this spike going through the collar instead of a separate spike. And then I just gotta make it pointy. Not a spike if it's not pointy. It's just a stud. Erase the excess. Get right up on the edge there. There we go. Just like that. A little tiny gap there that I want to fill in. I don't want any black against this white. Okay. Now I can do the tiny one. The other side of that is underneath the hair, so I don't have to worry about it at all. Managed to keep my life easy for once. I need to rotate this. Oop. Okay. Just want to keep the angle on both the spikes relatively similar. At least I think they were relatively similar. No, actually they really weren't. Maybe I drew it that way on purpose then. Okay. Oh. Well, I couldn't have because in the official art it's going this way. So... Or is it? Yes. Just because of the angle that it's being drawn at there. I had to think about that for a second. Oh yes, it is going this way. And then we'll make it nice and pointy. Nice and pointy. This is another rigid body, so you can see that I'm trying to keep the lines very straight. That's kind of how you can give a little bit of, I guess, texture and material impression even in this style. That's the kind of strokes you use and the kind of shapes here. You can see that a lot of my cloth has a lot more curves, like through here. Whereas the rigid bodies, like these spikes and the horns and all that, are very, very straight. Keeps things different and interesting. And there we go. Let me go turn all the layers back on, and I think that's where I will leave it for today. It's starting to look pretty good. I do like her face. I think that turned out great. So thank you all for coming. If you'd like me to take a look at your own creative works, then please message me or add me on Twitter or Instagram, and I will take a look and maybe leave some comments. I'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.